Hi, I'm Pete Lockett. Welcome to my first lesson on iDrum magazine. We're going to be looking at some Indian rhythmic ideas for a few of these lessons. The Indian rhythmic system, both in North and South India, is a very rich mixture of rhythmic influences, rhythmic ideas. There's a massive amount of material waiting to be discovered by a lot of Western drummers. If we look at drummers such as Steve Smith, Russ Miller, Benny Greb, they're all getting more and more interested in some of these rhythmic ideas that you find in India. Now, there are two styles of classical drumming in India. In North India, we have Hindustani classical drumming, and in South India, we have Carnatic classical drumming. I'm lucky enough to have studied a little bit of both of these styles. These drums, for example, are the North Indian tabla. Now, one of the important things with the South Indian system is the building blocks that we can have and use for developing rhythmic ideas. And a very good way to introduce yourself to some of these Indian rhythms is to look at some of these basic building blocks and work out different ways that we can articulate them and develop them and use them on drum set and other percussion, even for composition such as piano or any type of composition. So we have 5 main building blocks in the South Indian rhythmic system, 3, 4, 5, 7 and 9. Now, these building blocks are represented by phonetics, syllables. On the drums, phonetics and syllables are very interlinked with the technique of Indian drumming. If we look at the tabla, for example, from the north of India, and look at some of the strokes, on the rim, the high sound on the rim is called na. The open bass sound is called ge. The closed sound on the bass tabla is called ke. We have an open sound called tun, closed sound called te, and then compound syllables. So, for example, if I was to play ge and na at the same time, we have a syllable called da. So this whole system is very involved and a very interesting system to study in its own right. But we're going to look at some of the building blocks that we can have, 3, 4, 5, 7 and 9. They each have a set of syllables which one can sort of recite to become used to these building blocks. So if we look at the building block of 3, we can have the syllables ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. For 4, we have ta, ka, di, mi, ta, ka, di, mi. For 5, we can have ta, ti, ki, ta, tum, ta, ti, ki, ta, tum, and so on. With the 7-beat unit, we're going to look at it divided into 3 and 4. So we have 2 of the units, the 3-beat unit and the 4-beat unit, put together to make up the whole 7-beat unit. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ka, di, mi. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ka, di, mi. And similarly with the 9-beat unit, we have 4 plus 5. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ti, ki, ta, tum. 4 and 5. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ti, ki, ta, tum. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ti, ki, ta, tum. So there's lots of ways these units can be used. If we just take the 3-beat unit, obviously it could just be a basic triplet. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. Or for example, it could be 8th notes. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. Or 16th notes. Ta, ki, ta, 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 ta, ki, ta. Or triplets. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. Or different lengthed gaps. So for example, if we make it 3 16th notes long, ta, ki, ta, 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 and so on. For example, 5 16th notes long. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, and so on. One very important system when we're learning different rhythmic ideas is the concept of playing something at 1.5 times the speed, which is basically, you know, an eighth note triplet or a quarter note triplet, depending on, you know, which level you've come up and down from. It gets very elaborate in Indian percussion. So if we look at a small composition on the tabla, this is part of a composition called a kaida. Kaida is a kind of theme and variation composition that you find on the North Indian tabla. So the whole composition is played in single speed, 1.5 times the speed, and then double time speed. So it would sound something like this. The theme, the basic theme is this. Da gena da ti da da terikita da terikita taka terikita da ti da gen da ti da gena da ga tuna gena da. So this theme will be taken single speed, 1.5 times speed, and then double speed. Da gena da ti da da terikita taka terikita da ti da gen da ti da gena da ga tuna gen da gena da ti da da terikita taka terikita da ti da gena da ti da gen da ga tuna gena da gena da ti da da terikita taka terikita da ti da gena da ti da gen da ga tuna gena da gena da ti da da terikita taka terikita da ti da gen da ti da gena da ga tuna gena da gena da ti da da terikita da ti da gena da ti da gena da ga tuna gena da. So on the tabla, that would sound like this. We're now going to look at some of these unit manipulations on the drum set. We're going to look at taking some rhythmic units and putting them through the modulation into 1.5 times the speed. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with a 5-beat unit, which we touched upon earlier, which is ta, ti, ki, da, tum. So now we're going to look at some of these units in 1.5 times the speed. Obviously it's a lot simpler to start with the basic units and put them through that modulation process. So we've got a basic quarter note pulse, and I'm going to speak the units over the top. First of all, the 3. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta. So this is the basic 3 against 2 feeling. So really you've only got 2 voices here. You've got the 3 and the 2. But if over the level of the 3, the triplets, we start to put the other units, then we can get some a third voice in a sense. So let's put the 4 over the triplets against the quarter note. So there's our quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's our triplet. But we're going to have 4. Ta, ka, di, mi, 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 ta, ka, di, mi. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Now the same with 5. Ta, di, ki, ta, dum. Ta, di, ki, ta, dum. Ta, di, ki, ta, dum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ta, di, ki, ta, dum. Ta, di, ki, ta, dum. Ta, di, ki, ta, dum, ta. And then with 7. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ka, di, mi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ka, di, mi, da. And then with the 9-beat unit, 4 plus 5. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, di, ki, ta, dum. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, di, ki, ta, dum. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, di, ki, ta, dum, ta. Now you've got to remember that with all of these units, even though it's a kind of removed rhythm over the top of it, still ta, ki ta, ta ki ta. You have to have that 3 against 2 feel, which really locks it down. Each removed rhythm is really an embellishment, if you like, or sort of slight modulation away from the basic 3 against 2 groove. Now, when we've got to this point, we can start to just try some different voices. So, for example, I've just put some sounds on the electronic 2-box drum kit here. I've put a tambourine here, the hi-hat, and it's a crasher, actually, a Zildjian crasher. So this is where we've got the quarter note. Let's just look at ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. When you get comfortable with each level, you can then begin to split the phrase over the top of the quarter notes onto 2 different sounds. So, for example, ta, ki, ta will become and then the same with takadimi. And then the same with the 5-beat unit. And so on. We can go through the different units and begin to voice it like that, so we get comfortable with the actual 3 voices in the one rhythmic motif. Now, in North and South India, there's a whole system of clapping and waves that are used in performance that people play against. There's so much rhythmic work in the genres that it's very important for the performers to know exactly where they are in the time cycle and in the bars and what's happening, and also for the audience to be able to appreciate some of the rhythm work. I'm not going to go into the detail of why the claps and waves are there, but suffice to say that it's representing stressed and unstressed portions of the time cycles. In the tabla, in the north of India, these unstressed sections tend to have no open bass tabla sound in. So it kind of becomes like a landmark in a sense. It doesn't exactly mean that in the south, but still we do have stressed and unstressed sections. So let's look at a 5-beat clapping cycle using claps and waves. Now, the wave sometimes can be in the air like this. Sometimes it can be the back of the hand on the palm. So we're going to have a 5-beat clapping cycle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now against that, we're going to have our 5-beat unit. Ta, ti, ki, ta, tum. Ta, ti, ki, ta, tum. Ta, ti, ki, ta, tum. Ta, ti, ki, ta, tum, ta. Now what we're going to do is we're going to keep that clapping cycle exactly the same, and we're going to modulate the ta-ti kita tum. We're going to start off at that level, then we're going to go to half the speed for the syllables. The clapping stays the same, then back up, then we're going to go to quarter note triplets, eighth note triplets, and 16th notes, and it will sound like this. Ta-ti kita tum. Ta-ti kita tum. Ta-ti ki, ta, tum. Ta, ti, 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 ki, ta, ta, ti, ki, ta, tum. 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 Ta, ti, ki, ta, ta, ti, ki, ta, tum. 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 So from this point, we can begin to extrapolate that on the drum set. So for example, let's just take a basic sticking to represent the syllables. Right, left, left. And for the clapping pattern, we're going to have a pattern for the feet, which will be so I'm going to set something up here, and I'm going to it's 5/4 because we're in 5. I'm going to set the metronome at 126, and let's try that with the hands on the snare drum and the feet playing the ostinato, which was the clapping pattern. So now we can begin to extrapolate the sticking pattern on the toms. So for example, instead of just being on the snare drum, we're going to have again the same pattern on the feet. Of course, we can then go on to the other units and use different stickings. For example, the 7-beat sticking, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, 3 plus 4. You can again take that through the whole modulation process and begin to develop a different sense of shifting gears through various time cycle rhythm changes. Hi, welcome to lesson 2. We've been looking at Indian rhythms, and this is another Indian instrument. This is the KANJIRA, which is a traditional lizard skin tambourine from the south of India. This is actually the tunable Remo version. A fantastic drum. Highly recommend getting hold of one of these. Very easy to sort of take around and sort of use anywhere really. A very versatile drum, and a lot of the rhythms you find on it are very idiomatic and particular to the south of India. In the last lesson we looked at modulating 1.5 times the speed for different units. It's also very common that rhythms are shifted on and off the beat in different ways, and that's what we're going to look at in this lesson. Now, I'm just going to play a short piece on the KANJIRA which kind of shifts the rhythm around in a similar way that we're going to look at in the lesson. again, that piece was entirely in 4/4. One of the characteristics of it was the fact that it was using 15-beat phrases, and then you're kind of going off beat by a 16th note each time. It's actually one of the first things that I learned when I began studying Carnatic rhythm, and is a really useful tool for learning to put different phrases off the beat. So we're going to start by using two units, the 4-beat unit and the 3-beat unit, and we're going to have 4/4/4/3 adding up to 15, just with the straight syllables takadimi for the 4 and takita for the 3. Now if we repeat this 4/4/4/3 4 times, it will come back around onto the beat. So let's try that. Takadimi, 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 takita, takadim, takadimi, takadimi, takita, takadim, takadimi, takadimi, takita, takadim, takadimi, takadimi, takita, ta. A little bit slower. Now this is obviously 15 notes long because you're repeating the 15/16 phrase 4 times. Takadimi, takadimi, takadim, takita, takadimi, takadim, takadimi, takita, takadimi, 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 takita, takadim, takadimi, takadimi, takita, 1. So we want to use this in 4/4, so we're going to slightly amend it. As I said, this is 15 notes long, so if we add 1/4 note or 4/16 notes, then it's going to become a regular 4/4 length. So the fourth time, we're going to have 4/4/4/4/3. Takadimi, 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 takita. And it will sound like this, and it will be in 4/4. Takadimi, 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 takita, takadim, takadimi, takadim, takita, takadimi, takadim, takadimi, takita, takadim, takadimi, 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 takita, 1. The clapping cycle that I'm using is called Adi-Tala clapping cycle, and is one of the slightly more complex clapping cycles that you find in South India. It involves using a clap, the fingers, and waves as well. So it's one of the more complex clapping cycles. Bear in mind there are literally hundreds of different clapping cycles that are used in modern day India. So there are lots of different clapping cycles that people are using in performance. So the other way to resolve it into 4/4 is to have something that we call a T-high. Now a T-high is a basic rhythmic phrase repeated 3 times, calculated so as to end on the first beat. There's going to be more about this in another lesson, but just quickly to introduce you to the concept, the T-high that we're going to have involves the 5-beat unit and a single ta. Ta-ti kita tum ta. So 3 times, tati kita tum ta, tati kita tum ta, tati kita tum ta. And we're going to have that after 3 repeats of the 4/4/4/3. And it'll be like this. Takadimi, 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 takita, takadim, takadimi, takadimi, takita, takadim, takadimi, takadimi, takita, tati kita tum ta, tati kita tum ta, tati kita tum ta. Ending on beat 1. Now we're going to look at voicings for these on the drum set in a while. There are lots of different ways you can approach it. So let's move over to the drum set and we'll start to look at some voicings for these patterns. Now we're going to begin applying some of these rhythms to the drum set. We've got 2 units so far in this rhythm example, a 4-beat unit and a 3-beat unit. We're going to apply a paradiddle sticking, a paradiddle based sticking to the 4s, and the 3s will either be right, left, left, or left, right, left, depending on where they fall in the composition. So we're going to have right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, and then the first half of the paradiddle, right, left, right, right. That's the 4/4/4, and then for the 3, we're going to have left, right, left. Now remember at the end we had 4/4/4/4/3, so we're going to have the whole paradiddle twice, plus right, left, left. And it was going to be like this. So I'm just going to turn the metronome on. It's going to be about 114 BPM. And we're just going to play it on the snare drum with the click to begin with. It's an amazing thing, so useful to learn to play with the click properly. Really, you have to spend a lot of time working with the click, and it really does benefit your playing. And some of these instruments now, such as the 2-box drum kit, have an onboard click, so it kind of makes practicing a lot easier. And then next up, what we're going to do is we're going to add a simple foot pattern. To begin with, just right, left on the quarter notes. And then similarly, we can extend that foot pattern to 2/8 notes on the bass drum and the hi-hat. We can then begin to move around and start to put some of these voicings out onto the toms. So let's look at a simple paradiddle with the accents on the toms. So we're going to have right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left. So you see at the end, we've got the whole paradiddle plus right, left, left. And it will sound something like this. We can then begin to put in our various foot patterns, such as this. We could then begin to use other paradiddle combinations where you play all of the singles on the toms. Something based just with the paradiddle like this. Or different combinations. All using the straight paradiddle. Now, another great way to use this particular device is to have the paradiddle between the right hand on the hi-hat and the left hand on the snare drum. You'll notice that my hi-hat is in the middle. This is my particular playing setup, rather than having clustered sort of position like this. I also like the toms coming around like this. It's kind of a natural feel. And it's also very relevant to a lot of the percussion work I do, such as multi-sets of congas and timbales with other toms and stuff like that that are away from the drum set. So it kind of brings the two instruments together for me. So we're just going to have the paradiddle here. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. You can see I'm playing a backbeat accent. So it's a very common rhythm that you hear. Obviously lots of different things you can do with the bass drum. Now, by using this 4-4-3 combination, gives us a lot of options to shift the rhythm off the beat, which is what we started out this lesson with. For those of you that will have seen the Steve Gadd DVD, the Clinic Live, which was on Hudson Music, he talks a lot about the way that he shifts things off the beat, and he tends to use different paradiddles to do that. The inverted paradiddle alongside the, this traditional standard paradiddle, which is a perfectly, great way of doing it. This configuration with the sticking that we've looked at so far is actually a brilliant way of shifting the rhythm off of the beat. So let's have a little listen to it with the click. I'm just going to play, the straight back beat. There might be a little bit of variation with the bass drum, but the important thing is the paradiddle with the hands. Now we can begin to look at our T high that I mentioned earlier on in the lesson. Ta ti ki da tum ta, ta ti ki da tum ta, ta ti ki da tum ta. So we're going to have a simple sticking for that. Right, left, right, right, left is the 5, and then a hit. Right, left, right, right, left. So you remember that we had 4, 4, 4, 3, 3 times, and then we have the T high. It will sound like this. And then with the click. So these things are great for fills. They're great for, lots of different ways to embellish rhythm and come up with different ideas. So there's lots more about this in my book, Indian Rhythms for the Drum Set, which is available on Hudson Music. Stop by for the next lesson and see you soon. Hi, I'm Pete Lockett. Welcome to the 3rd lesson on Indian rhythms applied to drum set. We've been looking at modulations and we've been looking at beat displacement, and today we're going to be looking at something called T-highs. Now, T-highs is a really, really useful device for any drummer, really. It's basically a rhythmic cadence created from repeating a rhythmic phrase 3 times, calculated so as to end on the first beat. So, for example, if we're in 4, takatina ta, takatina ta, takatina ta, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Takatina ta, takatina ta, takatina ta. A very simple T high, but you can see how the last ta becomes beat 1. So obviously this can become, much more complex. It could be 3 groups of 11, which adds up to 33. Obviously 2 groups of 16 plus 1, so you've ended up on the first beat. We're going to be looking at some of these various T highs a little later. But first of all, I'm just going to play a piece that kind of features a few T highs and looks at some of those different movements. I'm going to be doing it on this drum again, which we found out last time was called the KANJIRA. Again, the tunable Remo KANJIRA. And hope you enjoy the piece. Right then, let's look at some T-highs on the drum kit. As I mentioned, a T-high is a basic rhythmic cadence created by repeating a phrase 3 times, calculated so as to end on the first beat of the next bar, the downbeat. So let's take a simple phrase. For example, simple phrase, 3 notes long. So if we repeat that 3 times, then the 3rd time that will become beat 1. So of course, within that simple framework, you could do lots of different rhythmic things. I mean, very simply, you could do or. Obviously, these are very simple versions of T-highs. The whole thing becomes a lot more complex. There's one thing to mention. In North and South India, there can be a slightly different interpretation of some T-highs. In the north of India, pretty much most of the T-highs are going to conclude on the first beat, like the ones that we've just done. In South India, sometimes they'll fill up the bar up until the last beat. And so, first beat, sorry. And so, take for example 3 groups of 5 in a bar of 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. So we've got 3 groups of 5 ending with a 1 afterwards. In North India, they'd be more inclined to start 1/16 later. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 5 becomes the first beat. So there are kind of 2 different approaches. And again, both of those approaches overlap enormously in the same way that rock and jazz, you know, you can't say this is rock and this is jazz. They both overlap enormously. And so it's a very simplified, a simplified simplification of the situation. So if we start to expand these T-highs out, as I mentioned earlier, we could have 3 groups of 11. So let's take this phrase, for example. It's 11 eighth notes long. That's the phrase. If we repeat that 3 times, then it will come to the first beat of the time cycle. So you can see, you can begin to expand this whole concept into, you know, much larger and more interesting ideas for T-highs than obviously the simple ones that we've started out with here. Now, you'll see downloadable as part of this lesson, there's a T-high chart or a chart of T-highs. And I'm just going to play through that chart for you now, just so you can see it. Again, I'm going to approach it very simple, you know, with 16th notes on these toms. A very straightforward approach. You know, within those particular time frames, you can obviously make it much more elaborate and do much more elaborate rhythmic things, or, you know, different stickings, different combinations to make the concept, you know, sound more interesting. The important thing about all of these lessons is to take the concepts from them. So it's all well and good, you know, taking this T-high chart, for example, and playing it straight off. But really what you want is the concept of it, the concept of playing T-highs, the concept of rhythmic modulation and you know, shifting off the beat. And it's really important to take these concepts and make them your own and develop your own ideas within these structures. This is really just a starting point and a door opener to say, you know, this is what there is here. It's a fantastic and amazing rhythmic world on the Indian subcontinent. So, you know, just use it as a springboard and try and develop your own ideas and, you know, see where it takes you. Now, I've got a little track just of me counting off the bars that I'm going to play along to, just so you can hear, you know, where we are in the rhythm chart. And you'll notice that in the rhythm chart that I've done, you count off 2 bars or 4 bars, and then I've done, you know, 16th group of 16th note times 4 or times 3. You know, you can play that off with time. That could be a fill, whatever you want really, before you play the actual T high. So let's take it away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2. So you can see I'm approaching this very simply just to get the concept of the T highs across. Now, if we look at the first example, then for the first few, what happens is just by extending the gap, you make the T high start 1/16th note earlier. So, for example, becomes, which then becomes extended with a gap of 2. And so on. So we begin to extend and elaborate and develop the whole concept of T highs. Of course, all these things, when you get within the Indian system, you begin to get the modulations and you begin to get, you know, the things shifted off the beat, and the whole concept becomes all you know, interwoven and very interesting. And there's a lot more about this in my book, Indian Rhythms for the Drum Set, available on Hudson Music at a store near you. So, see you later. Hi, welcome to lesson 4 and my look at Indian rhythms applied to drum set and other percussion instruments. One of the questions I often get asked about Indian rhythm is about playing in odd time signatures. And one of the ways of working within Indian rhythms is applicable to all time signatures. So for example, if we're in 4/4, it could be divided 9/9/9/5, for example, or 9/9/5/9, adding up to 32 each time. There are lots of different ways to sort of divide and have the building blocks work within 4/4 and within a regular time signature. But of course, when you're thinking in that way, it's very easy to then work in odd time signatures by using those building blocks to make up different time signatures. So it's a great way of working and coming up with different ideas within lots of different time signatures that go across the rhythm and create interesting rhythmic patterns. I'm going to play a little piece on the tabla now, which is kind of divided up in lots of different ways. The whole thing is actually in 4/4 from beginning to end, but you'll hear how some of the rhythm is divided and split up into different length units. So let's move over to the kit and look at how we can employ some of those styles of playing within 4/4 to create different feels and different divisions. I'm going to start off with 3 groups of 9 and a group of 5, obviously adding up to 32. Now, with a lot of these groupings, obviously you could count the 9 takadimi takatakita, takadimi tatiketa tom, all of the 16th notes. But it's also very common in South Indian percussion to have rhythmic phrases for the groups instead of just counting off the 16th notes. So, for example, if you count at half the speed and make the last note half the length, then you'll get something that sounds like this. Ta, ti, ki, ta, tum, ta, ti, ki, ta, tum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ta, ti, ki, ta, tum, 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 ta. So it's kind of a more of a lyrical type of phrase. Similarly with the 5, tati keta tum, you can have a phrase, dim tag, dim tag, dim tag, dim tag, dim tag, dim tag, tag. So if we begin to look at the phrases now, we put those phrases together, 9, 9, 9, 5, we'd have this. Remember that we're in 4/4. Tati keta tum, tati keta tum, tati keta tum, dim tag, tati keta tum, tati keta tum, tati keta tum, dim tag, ta. So from there, now we've got the phrases, we can begin to employ, different phraseology on the drum set. So if we kind of think of it in a groove type way, we can approach the 9 like this. So I'm just following the contours of the rhythm with a simple bass and snare pattern. So let's make that into 4/4 by doing the 9, 9, 9, 5 as we started with. See, I'm just playing straight eighth notes on the hi-hat. And now with the click. You see, it's quite a sort of lyrical type of way to approach grooves, and I mean, you could even slip it in once in the middle of something, or make that a whole sort of pattern for a verse or chorus or something like that. So I'll just play some straight time, and I'll slip that in. Of course, you can also go on then to, approach a similar sort of thing with 16th notes. Of course, that's 9, 9, 9, 5, but of course we can move the 5 wherever we like. We could have 9, 5, 9, 9, for example, which would sound like this. We can then start looking at different units, such as 7 with the 9. So obviously 7 and 9 is 16, so we could have 7, 7, 9, 9. So if we look at our next example, ta dim takata ta dim takata ta ti ki ta tum ta ti ki ta tum ta dim ta ka ta dim ta ka ta ti ki ta tum ta ti ki ta tum ta. It's a good idea. You can begin to, do it just with a quarter note bass drum and play the pattern on the snare drum. So there are numerous different ways you could approach it. Let's look at how we could do a groove with that. So for the 7, and we'll keep the 9 as it was. So let's have 7 7 9 9. And then, of course, with 16ths. So you can begin to see it's a great way of coming up with alternative grooves and alternative approaches within 4/4. So there's lots of different variations, and obviously, the sky's the limit in terms of your own imagination in putting basic sums together that will add up to 16 or 32, or if you're in different time signatures, 14 or 28 or whatever. And you basically start to come up with grooves that are away from the standard 2 and 4 on the snare, or following the contours of an odd time signature. So enjoy the material, and I'll see you for the next instalment very soon. Welcome to lesson 5, my little exploration of Indian rhythms on iDrum. Now, this next lesson involves counting gaps. It's kind of something that you don't really hear talked about that often, but within the context of Indian rhythm, is an incredibly useful thing. And of course, then that spills over onto being incredibly useful, outside of the idiom. I'm going to start by playing a track that comes specifically out of a composition derived simply from counting gaps. It's a track that I wrote for Mark Schulman, which has been called by Mark Petelockett. Whatever, it's all good, all part of the bigger picture. So this track, again, based on gaps. So as I mentioned, that track was based on a composition derived from counting gaps. You know, it may seem like an unimportant thing, but it's one of the most important things that I learned from my studies of Indian drumming and percussion. The idea of counting gaps with phrases. So let's take one of the gaps within that tune, which is 5 notes long. Now, if you've got a quarter note pulse here and you have to speak a rhythm which is 5/16 long, but with only one note in it, it would sound like this: ta, 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 ta. So one of the keys to this type of gap is having a set of syllables that you speak in your mind like grace notes. So one is playing that pattern, but in your mind you're thinking ta 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 ta, but you're only playing ta 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 ta. So all the different gaps have a kind of set of syllables that represent them, and it makes compositions with series of gaps and different gap structures much easier to articulate. I mean, it's something that I find very useful in the studio. Sometimes you'll get a piece of music or a chart and there's a couple of awkward hits or a couple of things that you kind of have really got to like focus on, or you're thrown, you hear it in a different place. And sometimes using this system of counting gaps can really get you out of that problem. So, you know, a gap of 3 will be ta, guitar, 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 ta, ta, ta. You're just playing the ta, but you're in your mind you're thinking ta, guitar, guitar, gut. And 4, ta, ta, ta. 5, as I said, ta, ta, guitar. 6 can be either 3 and 3 or 2 2 2. Ta 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 ta. Now, depending on certain compositions, whether you do the 3 plus 3 or the 2 2 2, sometimes it's easier to do the straighter one, and sometimes it's easier to do the 3 plus 3. 7 ta 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 ta, and so on. So let's look at this piece now. So the actual structure is clearly written in the notes. Let's look at the A section. So the A section starts with a simple 3/8, ta ta tum, with a gap at the end. So it's 6/8 notes long. But then we have a gap of 5, a gap of 4, and a gap of 3. Ta ta tum, ta ga ta tum ga ta, which with quarter notes, ta ta tum, ta ga ta tum ga ta. And then we have a gap of 5, and then 4, and then 5. So it kind of makes up 4/4. It's all in 4/4, the whole track. So we have, as the notation, ta ta tum, ta ga ta tum ga ta ta tum tum ga ta ta tum. And what I've done with this track is divide these syllables between snare beats and bass drum beats. So we get a rhythm that sounds a little bit like this. Well, in fact, it sounds exactly like this. Ta tum ta ta tum ta ta tum tum ta ta tum. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 1. So that's the A section. The B section is very similar. We just swap the end section, which is the 5 4 5, before the 5 4 3. So we have the ta ta tum, the 3/8 section, followed by 5 4 5, followed by 5 4 3. So we have ta ta tum ta ta tum tum ta ta tum ta ta tum. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1, which will be like this. So you can see it's quite an interesting sort of structure. I mean, I tend to play with the hi-hat playing the offbeat accents for this groove. So you can immediately see, again, it's another way of creating something different, moving away from a standard backbeat type approach to a groove. And again, it's not necessarily something that you would want to do the whole way through a track, but maybe that there's a passage where you might want to play some different accents. The other thing that it's very useful for is composition. If you're going to be getting into composing or coming up with different ideas within the band structure, or thinking of new ways of writing material, then this is a very useful tool and device to have. Pretty much the rest of the piece is divided with the same type of gaps. We have, again, the 3/8 section plus 5 5 5 5 5 5. Which isn't in 4/4. And then finally, we have a similar sort of construction, but we are doing adding a section which is making it into like a T high which we mentioned before is a phrase repeated 3 times, calculated so as to end on the first beat of the time cycle or groove or whatever. So we have the same section as the section I've just played you, but we add on the top of it in that manner. So there we can see an abbreviated version of the whole of the main section of the track. Now there's another section which happens a little while later, and it's kind of a longer version of a T-high, and it involves different phrases repeated 3 times. And again, counting the gap is really important in this situation. There's actually a lot about this in my book, Indian Rhythms for the Drum Set, and there's a track on there called Counting the Gap, where the whole thing is devoted specifically to different ways of counting the gaps. But this pattern that we go to, that I play on the toms, now basically that comprises of 3 groups of 5 and a gap, 3 groups of 6 and a gap, 3 groups of 7 and the downbeat. So the groups of 5, One, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Da. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So that's the structure of it. The 5-beat phrase. Tut tit da kita dum. Left, right, left, right, left, right. The 6-beat phrase, tati da kita dum, tati da kita dum. And the 7-beat phrase, tati da kita dum, tati da kita dum. So the whole thing. Now the gap is important here because the gap is 5. So again, when we come to the gap, remember at the beginning, the gap counting with the extra syllables is ta, aga, ta, aga. And you're only playing the ta, ta, aga, ta, aga, ta, aga. So we're having that in our mind, we're thinking that when it comes to the gap. Tati da kita dum, tati da kita dum, tati da kita dum, ta tati da kita dum, tati da kita dum, tati da kita dum, ta. So really important actually, and particularly when you have to have something where something might be thrown off beat, even if it's one of the even gaps. Like for example, sometimes people say to me, well, what's the point of learning, 4, ta, ta, I mean, it's, what's the point? But if that comes after, say for example, some 5s, say you've got 3 groups of 5. Da 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 da. So with quarter notes, ta 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 ta. It's an easy way of kind of keeping that gap. So when it's thrown off beat, the actual having the ability to count gaps with syllables, even if it's an even or an easier group to count, is very useful. So that's the structure of the piece. As I say, that's a piece I wrote for Mark Schulman. It's on his DVD, which is a DVD on recording drums and writing arrangements and how to follow charts and stuff like that. It's a very interesting DVD. Definitely worth checking out. As I say, there's lots more material in my book, In New Rhythms for the Drum Set.